What's up, YouTube? Got another video for you today. Now this is just a disclaimer, this is fully cigarette oriented. This is a tutorial on how I have figured out how to smoke a Lucky Strike, or that, from that matter, any cigarette that is unfiltered without getting tobacco in your mouth. Because as you can see, these cigarettes are, of course, unfiltered. And honestly, for this price, this has become my now go-to cigarette, at least for the time being, that I can get them for just over $2. Now, first things first, you want to get your cigarette out. Now, there are two ways you can do this. You can either take your entire pack and you can pack it, instead of packing a normal pack of cigarettes that has a filter, which, you know, you take the top end, which has all the filters on them, and beat them on a table or what have you. Instead, what you can do, and I'm trying to be careful with this pack because it's very humid out here, and in fact it's raining, so this is starting, at least the paper on the outside. The cigarettes haven't gotten moist, but this has. It started to absorb the moisture in the air. So after I film this video, I'm of course going to be going inside. But you can either take this and tap on the bottom, and basically you want to try to pack just a little bit, not too terribly or anything, the tobacco down away from the part that you're going to have on your lips. And there's also more techniques besides this that you can do as well, which I will be showing you once, of course, I light the cigarette. But that's what you can do to start. Is, granted, most people say, oh, you're not supposed to pack these. Well, I have started packing them at least a tiny bit, you know, like that. Or what I've been doing with this pack since it's open is taking the cigarette, making sure I have the ink pointed up, because that's the part I put in my mouth. Take your Zippo, give it a few taps on your good old Zippo or a table, which I might do because this one isn't packing down like it should be. What the fuck is all these bugs doing out here? Or you can, again, pack it kind of like that. And you want to kind of get some momentum going so it actually knocks the tobacco down to the point where it's actually starting to stick out of the other end of the cigarette, instead of being flaking out in your mouth and all nasty and disgusting, which we don't want that, do we? So I'm just going to sit here, maybe do it a few more times, and it doesn't have to be done that much. Like, as you guys can see, which I'll show you here in a second, it's packed down just a tiny bit, as you can see, and that's all you want. You don't want to pack it down too much, because then it's going to start folding as you put it in your mouth, and the moisture from your lips and your saliva is going to start bending the cigarette, which is what happened with the Camel that I just ripped the filter off of. That's what wound up happening. But we can go ahead and light this baby up and get on to more of how, you know, we do this. There is nothing like a Lucky Strike cigarette, I'll tell you guys what. But anyway, as you guys can see, no tobacco coming out. And I also sometimes use my thumb and just press it down ever so lightly. And I don't hold the cigarette like actually in my mouth. Like with a filtered cigarette, I'll actually stick the filter part of the cigarette in my mouth. You don't want to do that, because as soon as this starts getting wet, the tobacco is going to start coming out, and it's going to be disgusting, and you're not going to like it. So you want to try to keep this end as dry as possible, and just take slow, you know, chill, relaxed drags. You don't want to be, you know, puff, 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 because then undoubtedly you're going to be rushed. And this is honestly a more of a relaxing, you know, evening, in my opinion, evening cigarette. But like that, and I still haven't gotten any tobacco in my mouth. And with this method, there are going to be times where you do get a tiny bit of tobacco, especially if you start flicking it. So what I do or I've tried to start training myself, is instead of flicking it, which is a bad habit at this point because I've smoked filtered cigarettes for so long, is just very slightly on the side of your ashtray, just knock the ash off like that instead of actually flicking it, because as you flick it, you're putting pressure on that tobacco, making it loose and wanting it, or causing it to want to fall out. So yeah, and again, you also want to be very gentle with handling an unfiltered cigarette as well. They're a little bit more frail, I have noticed, than non-filtered, because again, the part you're holding with your two fingers is going to be the filter, but on this case, it is just tobacco. And the more you squeeze it, the more the tobacco is going to want to start squeezing out of the end that goes in your mouth, and that is not very enjoyable. So almost flicked it there. Again, that's something that's a main reason why you'll start getting this tobacco in your mouth, is if you start flicking your cigarette. So when you're smoking one of these, honestly, I recommend getting yourself even just a cheap ashtray or a cup or something, and just, you know, or a glass jar, and just taking it on the side and rubbing the ash off of the cigarette. And again, guys, this is going to be more of a tutorial video than anything else. But again, I'm going to, like all my videos, make sure it's labeled not for kids, because it's not cool to promote smoking to 12-year-olds. But again, if you are over the age of 18, in my opinion, that is now your decision whether or not you want to make the bad choice to start smoking like I did, or like so many countless others have in the past. But the rain is starting to pick up. Hopefully it doesn't start getting windy, because it is soaking wet out here. As a matter of fact, I had to wipe off this desk that I'm using out here as a recording table because it was pretty well soaked. And honestly, my ass is going to be soaked now because I was sitting in this chair. It has a little cushion on it. Granted, I flipped the cushion over and there wasn't too much water, but who knows. Okay, and I have my first piece of tobacco in my mouth. It's on my tongue. Don't know if you guys can see that on the camera. Yeah, you can definitely see that. So again, this isn't foolproof. You will still get some tobacco, but it also lessens the chance of you actually inhaling tobacco chunks, which that doesn't sound very enjoyable or healthy to me. So I'm trying to minimize that as much as possible while doing this. That's why I take light drags off of these cigarettes. And even with light drags, these will still kick you. Trust me. But again, you just want to hold it in your fingers very lightly. Don't want to, you know, squeeze it within your two fingers like you would, let's say, again, a filtered cigarette. Because especially towards the end, it starts getting very, like, more easily to mush it because of how much tar and nicotine is starting to build up on the tobacco towards the end. Because again, there is no filter to catch any of that, so you're basically inhaling the full flavor and the full body of the cigarette all at once. But again, anytime you have ash, highly recommend do not flick it, because that's, again, and I've said it several times in this video, is one of the main reasons why your cigarette will start to flake tobacco off in your mouth. So instead of that, again, I just scrape the ash. And you just have to get used to not accidentally scraping the cherry itself off the cigarette, because then your cigarette's basically going to be ruined if you try to relight it. It kind of ruins the taste, in my opinion, but and then towards the end of the cigarette, I always try to push it as far up as possible, because I like to smoke as much of the tobacco as I can. Granted, I got these for the price of a really cheap, like let's say Maverick, or even I think these are cheaper. What I paid is cheaper than Mavericks, but again. And also what I'm gonna try to do with these is space it out when I buy these from that lady in the tobacco store, because I definitely don't want to be coming in there all the time buying these cigarettes, chain smoking them, because eventually she probably would get in trouble for selling me these for such a low price. So, but what I might do is have them order a carton of these and then wait until she's there and buy the whole carton at $2 a pack. Now, that would be a hella good deal. And honestly, I'd be amazed if I could get away with that. Still, so far, I haven't gotten any more tobacco in my mouth. I maybe have 1-2 more drags off this. So I'm going to take those, and then I'm going to end the video. But yeah. Okay, yeah, now it's starting to get really harsh. As you guys can see, there's only that much left of the cigarette, and that's normally where I end the cigarette. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that out. And that is going to be my video tutorial on how to minimize the amount of tobacco chunks or tobacco flakes that you get in your mouth while smoking a unfiltered cigarette. So if you like the video, like, share, comment, subscribe. Anything you do helps. Share this video with any of your smoking friends who smoke these and complain about the tobacco getting in their mouth, because again, that is the one major downside to these cigarettes, is you will get tobacco in your mouth. Like, even I, with this tutorial, got 1 chunk of tobacco, but the first time I smoked these during my video, I was getting flakes almost every puff or hit I would take. I would wind up with a piece of tobacco on my lip and maybe a piece or two like on the tip of my tongue. So this greatly reduces, if you smoke it, at least in this method, greatly reduces the amount of that happening. So again, I will see you in the next video.